Hello everyone, it's Carrie at Inky Bee Journals and Ephemera. Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time visiting my channel, hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. So today we are going to continue on with the Florals and Foliage notebook, and this is what it will look like, or something similar to this. And today we are up to part 2 and potentially episode 1 if I need to split this into 2 videos. And we will be creating this cover base. And just to give you an example of what the brad binding will look like, this is how it will look. So that just gives you an idea. And this cover has a little Velcro tab closure, and when we open it up to the center, here is the other side of our brads. So this little book will actually open up reasonably flat, so you can still write and what have you on there if you want to. I will be adding some pockets in here later on, but this is just an example of what the notebooks that we're making are going to look like. This is the cover, and we will be making one fairly similar to this as of today. So I'll put that aside and let's get started. So for materials, you will need something to make your cover base with. And I am just starting off with, excuse me, I'm just starting off with some cereal weight box. Now, this is not the only thing you can use. If you don't have cereal boxes, but you have any form of food packaging boxes, it's all virtually cereal weight. So any of that will be suitable. All you really need to think about is, are the panels of that box going to be big enough to cater for the size of the front and the back cover that you would like to make, and long enough in its height, one way or the other, to create the spine area that you need for your cover. If you don't have cereal weight boxes, but you can potentially, well, you could use even this. Now this is cardstock. You could use cardstock, and if you want it a little bit thicker, you can just layer a couple of pieces together, and that will give you a thicker piece to work with. You could also use Crafter's chipboard, or I think it's otherwise known as box board. You could use that as another option. You can get a lightweight, a medium weight and a heavy weight, and a lightweight or medium weight would be fine for this project. Use what you have, use what you can obtain, and play around with ideas, because any of these sorts of items can be usable. And using cereal weight or any sort of food packaging also helps it to become a trash buster, and a good way of repurposing something that would otherwise potentially end up in landfill. So I will be using this as my base, and to cover it I will be using this brown coloured cardstock. And I have a different colour here to use as my inside jacket, inside liner I should say. And then I will just cover that with a design from the paper collection that I'm using, the digital collection. Now, the digital collection I'm using is from this same collection that I used in this one. And the collection is by Wildflower Publishing. They are on Etsy, and it's created by the lady named Hannah. And I will put a link in the description box below for her Etsy store. and for anything else that we might use on today's video, such as the glue that I will be using. You don't have to use this glue, but if you are looking for a glue, this is the one that I'm using. And I will also put a link for, if I can find one, for the cutter that I will be using, and I will also, and there won't be a link for this, but I will also, at the end of the video, I will also place a couple of these down, these pages down, for you to screen cap or copy down in some way so that you can refer to it later on if you need to. And these are just some instructions for making a cover the easy way. So we'll get to that shortly. So without further ado, let's get started. So as I said, I'm using this piece of cereal box, and basically we need to work out what sizing we need for our front and our back panels. So how we do this is we find our signature that we're going to use. So here is my signature, and the easiest way to do this, turn it over to your blank side, because then you will be able to see what you're doing a little bit easier. And I turn it this way so I can see just a little bit easier, closer to me. So hopefully you can see this. Actually, I will turn it this way just because I think you might be able to see it that little bit easier. So I'm actually turning my signature so that the spine, or the folded side, is facing away from me, and I'm going to line this spine area up to the edge of the card as much as I can, as evenly as I can, and I'm going to try to give myself a little bit of extra width on this side. So I'm working on approximately 1/8 of an inch, and I want to just eyeball the same, roughly the same amount on this side. So I'm just going to use my pencil, and I'm just going to roughly mark 1/8 of an inch there. Now this is handy because to do it freehand like this, because you don't actually have to be precise unless you want to be precise. So then I turn it this way, and you want to add approximately 1/8 of an inch to this side. So again, I'll get my pencil and I will just roughly mark 1/8 of an inch this way. You only need to do it on the right hand side of your signature. You don't need to add the extra on this side, because this side is where your spine is going to be, and I will show you what to do with that later on. Now once you have these lines, you can cut this out, and then you can use this panel to mark a second panel, because you will need 2 panels, a front and a back. So to cut these, I am going to bring in my cutter, and I'm sorry if you see the table or the camera wobble a little bit. This tends to happen when I move myself to and from the table with the chair. So I'm just going to slide my cardboard, or cardstock, whatever you want to call this, chipboard in, and I'm just going to take this mark at the top here that I've made, and I'm just going to butt this edge up against this ridge here, and this mark that I've made here right against the edge of this metal edge here. And this way I know that this should be straight. And then when I think I have everything nice and straight, I'm just going to press down on this protective clear bar here, and this just stops you running over your fingers or anything and helps to hold everything nice and still. And then I'm just going to slide this, and we've cut one way. Now we need to do the same thing, and we're going to line up this mark with this edge, this metal edge, making sure that this straight edge is flush against this ridge here. And once again, press down and cut along there. And you can hang on to these pieces because that's big enough to make a spine of a small journal or something. You could also turn this into a tag or something like that if you wanted to. Now we can move this to the side for a moment, and we can use this to actually measure a second piece. So we're just going to line this up in the corner down this side and this side as flush as you can. And again, we're just going to mark that there and then come down to this side and mark across here. And this way we've got our two markings again to cut a second piece. So we'll cut the second piece. Lining up at the top edge here and the little marking at the top here with the edge of the metal piece. Hold this down and slide this across. And again, you can hang on to this piece because we'll actually use this piece to make our spine with. And then we'll turn it this way and we'll line it up flush against this edge again. And we have our marking here, and we're going to line that up with the metal edge again. Press down and slide that across. Again, we have another piece there that we can hang on to. Okay, so we have our front and back pieces, and they should be relatively the same in size. You might have a very slight difference, but as Cara Renee says, perfection is not at play in the studio, and it is certainly not at play in my studio today. So, yep, they're pretty much the same size. There might be a slight little difference on one side. I think there is, very slight. There is. So I'm just going to get a pair of scissors when I find them, and I'm just going to run along that edge just to neaten up that edge so that it's all the same across. So we have our front and back covers there, so I'm just going to grab my pen and I'm just going to write front and back. Now we need to work out how wide we want to make this spine in the center. Now, if you have a look at this one that I've made, it's not a very wide spine. It's only about 3/8 of an inch, I think it was, and that's really all it needs to be for a single signature, because it's not a particularly thick signature. As you can see in here, it's not a thick signature. So we can get our piece here that we have, and we can bring this in, and yeah, that's going to be difficult that way, isn't it? I'll do it this way. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll bring in the ruler this way, And I'm just going to, you don't have to measure this, of course. Where's my pencil? Here. And I'm just going to mark 3/8 of an inch. You can make it 1/2 an inch if you want to, but 3/8 of an inch is really enough. So it's very thin. It's enough because when you cover this, you will actually find that you have, and you won't see it on here, you will actually have a little bit of extra width here and here where it folds. So 3/8 of an inch will actually be enough because it will spread out just that little bit anyway. So we have our 3/8 of an inch width here, which is, as you can see, roughly 1 centimetre wide if you are talking in centimetres. So we can move this out the way. We can bring the cutter back in and we can, I'll turn this around the other way. Once again, we can place this in. It can be a little bit difficult because of this here and this being narrow, but we can do it. So again, try to have it straight across the top and line up the marking with the edge of the metal edge. So about there, and then we can slide across. We have all of this left which we can use for tags or another spine, and then we have our narrow piece here. Now we obviously don't need it to be that long, so what we need to do is measure it against one of these, and actually I'm just going to do it this way. So you can just put it right up to the edge of it there and just mark it where it needs to be, and then you can just cut that off flush. I can see. So you can choose whether you want to keep this or not. It's small enough that you can use it for, big enough you can use it for something, but you might find it a little bit too small for what you'd like. So there is your spine. So the general rule is you make your spine as wide as you feel you need it, but you make it equally as long in the length to the front and back covers, so that when you put them together, it is all the one, it's all on one level at the top and the bottom evenly. Now I've made this 3/8 of an inch because for one narrow signature like this, you would be placing this in the center, and you will have approximately 1/8 of an inch either side of that signature, which allows it to fan out a little bit. And if you want to use yours as a journal and fill it full of pockets and other goodies, it will gain some more dimension and it will allow for a little bit of fanning out. So, however, if you want extra signatures to go in, you need to allow for about 3/8 of an inch per signature to work out the overall width of your spine area. So now that we have that, the next thing we need to do is work on covering these. And how we do that is I am going to use this brown card. Now I have 2 pieces of 12 by 12 and I'm actually going to join them together. So we'll do that. So I'm just going to use a little bit of glue You can use tape for this if you want to, but I'm just going to use a little bit of glue. And I'm just going to put the pin back in my glue. And then I'm just going to join this edge here down over this glue area and try and keep the top and the bottom as evenly as you can. It's alright if it's a little bit off because I can never get it perfect anyway, but the aim is to join the two pieces together. I'm just going to run over that glue area with my bone folder and clean up any glue seepage that I have. And run over this side with my bone folder. And just clean up any glue that I have, like that. So now I'm just going to get my spine piece and I'm going to glue this down over this join line here. Because if you have a look at the one that I've made, you will see that my glue line, or you can see the line in which they overlap, is as close down the middle as I can manage, and that's the aim. So it's overlapped by almost as wide as this is. So I'm actually going to glue it on, roughly on the edge of that line, so that this edge here is on this edge here. So I'm just going to run some glue over this. And when I glue it down, I'm going to leave myself roughly ½ inch because you want a little bit to fold over. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to use my bone folder and just really press that down, making sure we have plenty of contact between our pieces with the glue. And then we need to glue down these two pieces, and you'll actually put the one that you want for your back. It does, I've just written back and front on here, but it doesn't really matter, they're both the same. And when we glue these down, we want to keep them even at the top and the bottom, but we also want to space them by about 1/8 of an inch apart, so that there is that bit of gap between the spine and the two front and back panels. So we need to glue these down. So I'm just going to run some glue over these. And I'm just going to glue that down, leaving myself about 1/8 of an inch in spacing. Get that as even as you can manage. And then just glue all of that down, wipe up any seepage. Press that down with the bone folder to help get plenty of contact between your cardstock and your chipboard. And then we can do the same with this piece, placing it here in exactly the same way, leaving about 1/8 of an inch. Now I am just using some art glitter glue. You do not have to use art glitter glue. You can use a fabric glue. You can use whatever your favourite glue is. But if you are new to the craft and you're still not sure what to do about what sort of glue to use, this is a good all-rounder glue, I find. Some people don't like using it, but everybody has their favourites. If you'd like to try it, I will have a link in the description box below for you. And we'll just place that down even at the top with about 1/8 of an inch in spacing between the spine and this panel. And we'll just place that down. Once again, we'll wipe up any seepage. And yes, I have this word front upside down, but that doesn't matter. So I'm just going to put the pin back in my glue and flip this over and just give it another good press down with my bone folder, just to make sure all of my pieces are nice and stuck. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is move some of this excess. So I'm just going to get my steel ruler and I'm just going to butt the edge of it up against the edge of this. And I'm going to get my finger blade, and I'll put a link for this in the description box if you are interested. And I'm just going to cut this excess off. There we go. And I will do the same on this side, doing exactly the same, but the edge of the ruler up to the edge of your cardstock. Sorry, the edge of your chipboard, and just cut away the excess. And you'll do the same along this edge. Like that. So now we have this. And the next thing we need to do is start training our cardstock to bend without causing cracking. If you're using something that's a bit thicker, you might find it will attempt to crack a bit easier. So one way we can avoid this is by using a bone folder, like any of these sorts of things. And This one's got the little ball point on it. This one I think came with I think it came with my envelope punch, and this one came as part of my 4 set. So we can use any of these sorts of things. I'm just going to use this one, and all I'm going to do is butt this little ball edge right up against the edge of these pieces of card. So all the way around these edges and all the way around both sides of this spine piece. We are just going to press down to create an indentation along there, and we're going to do that on both sides there, and we're going to do the same on here, and this just helps to minimize cracking. And then we can do the same all the way around these other edges. And we go all around all 4 sides. Okay, so once we've done that, we can then start to just gently rock it in like that. That helps to break down the fibres, and as you can see, it's starting to bend. And then we can just fold this over like this, and then we can go to the next side and do the same. And by bending it a little bit at a time like that, you are actually helping to break down those fibres, and that helps to prevent unnecessary cracking. And one more side. Just like that. Then we need to miter these corners. So how we do that is we get the point of our knife, and you can do this with scissors if you like, but we are actually just going to come out from the corner here by just 1 millimeter or 2, and then we, instead of cutting straight down, you will see when we folded this in both directions that we have fold lines here. Now it's really hard to see with the brown, I do understand that, but we have a fold line here and we have a fold line that goes across here. We actually want to come out to about a couple of millimeters from the corner and come out on an angle like this on both this side and this side. Sorry, I know this might be a little bit hard for you to see. Try to stay in frame. I actually can't see when I am in frame and when I'm not. And then we've cut this piece out so that we're left a corner like this. And we'll do that on all 4 sides. Come out just a little bit from the corner, cut on an angle, and do the same on the other direction. Cut out on an angle so that we have our little corner piece out, and we are left with it looking like this at the end. We'll do the same on this side. Come out from the corner a little bit, cut on an angle, and do the same around the other way. And do the same in the last corner as well. So why do we do this in the corners? It helps to take the bulk out when we are folding it, so that we don't have too much bulk there. So when we fold these in and we fold these over, we get a nice corner here, a nice mitered corner. So the next thing we do is we glue these down. So I'm just going to glue this down. Now, if you want to use double-sided tape, you most certainly can do that if you've got a strong double-sided tape. I wouldn't use something like snail tape, which is the tape that you get on the rolls like this, because it tends not to be quite strong enough. You want something that's got a fairly reasonable amount of stick to it. So good strong double-sided tape is the best option, or you could use a combination of that and a bit of good strong glue like this, like the Crafters, like the art glitter glue is a good strong glue. And I'm just going to press that down with my bone folder, and I'm going to do the same with the other side, the other end I should say. Fold that over, press that down, burnish that down with the bone folder, making sure we have a good stick, and then we can do the same with these sides. And we'll fold that over, press that down, go over that with the bone folder, wipe up any seepage you have, and when you have this bit here where you've got the spine, just go over that gently with your bone folder and just press that down into that gap space just a little bit, and make sure that it's well stuck. And then we can do the same on this side. Press that down. Wipe up any seepage that you might have. Give that a firm burnish down. Remember to press in a little bit where those gaps are. Lid on my glue, sorry, the pin in my glue, and there we have the cover basically done. Now what we're going to do is we need to bend this in here very gently. So how we do that is we're just going to gently do this back and forth a few times, just to help break those fibres in between, like we did around the edges, just to help it bend a little bit easier. And we're going to do that to the other side. And you should be able to basically bend it over enough to almost completely flatten. So there is your flat edge there is your front cover and there is your back cover. Now I'll leave the video there for now. When we come back in episode 2 of part 2, we will cover the inside and we will look at putting the signature in with the brad binding. So for those of you who feel you might need some written instructions on how we made this cover, not how we covered the cover with the cardstock, but how we actually created these 3 individual panels, I have made these rough step-by-step notes for you, and this will basically work for any size cover that you want to make. And what I will do is I will hold this still for a moment, and with each page that I have, and you can actually screen cap it, and I will explain more about how it works in the next video. Okay, so I hope that was helpful to some of you. As I said, I will explain all of this in the next video, and we will do the inside cover of this as well, and then we'll start putting the rest of the book together. So there's our cover. If you liked this video, please consider giving me a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing, hitting that notification bell so that YouTube can send you a notification next time I upload a video. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe out there, and I will see you next time. Bye.